when I was in high school, I remember going to the Raleigh State Fairground Flea Market one Sunday afternoon, which was, it was always a special occasion to get to go to the flea market after church, because we normally, stayed home. And if you've never been to the Raleigh flea market, I've been attending for over 20 years, and it's exactly the same every time you go, so you don't need to keep going back just one trip and you've seen it all. But this one Sunday sticks out to me because I got my first and my only Dixie Outfitters t-shirt. Now I just Googled their website, and they have a mission statement, and their mission statement says that their job is to preserve, show pride, and educate others in the Southern way of life. But in short, it is a clothing company who puts the Confederate flag on the background of every shirt, and then they put some Southern trope in the foreground. So fishing, hunting, dirt bikes, mud, tobacco, and surprisingly today, as I was scrolling through it, a picture of a cotton plant, which I thought was in very poor taste. But also at one point in high school, or middle school, I don't recall which, but I did buy a Confederate flag and I hung it in my room. And then I fired up our Windows 95 computer, proudly jumped on Microsoft Word and started using WordArt and printed a Heritage Not Hate sign. So here I am now, a 34-year-old who has always taken pride in being from North Carolina and being a Southerner, and in being raised in a Christian house where we're open and accepting of everyone, or at least so I've always thought. And so having this background, of course it's possible for me and thousands of other people to look upon this Confederate symbol different than those who had family fighting in the Union under the Star-Spangled Banner, or a family who was caught up in chattel slavery, right? Wrong. It's impossible to bifurcate this graven image from its oppressive past. And I finally had this aha moment a few weeks ago as I made time for a book that's been it's been through 3 or 4 different moves. It's been on multiple bookshelves, multiple desks, and it's sat there, and I finally grabbed it, and I'm really glad I did. The book is Robert E. Lee and Me, written by a retired Army General, Ty Sidgwill. I hope I said his name right. I watched a video 3 times that said his name to try and get it right. It's a quick read. There's lots of information in it, lots of examples. And he is a historian, but it does not come across as some of these very dense history books that you'll read. It's quick and easy. I highly recommend it. The revelation moment for me happened maybe 3/4 of the way through the book. But it was interesting because the general didn't present anything to me that I had never been exposed to. There were no new ideas in here that I didn't know. It was just finally taking the time to process and understand the information and not have it just beat over your head like in a 24-hour news cycle, right? But I mean, there was no concept that was new, like the emblazoned names of Confederate generals plastered across the South and on schools and streets and monuments, army bases, and the correlation of new monuments during the Jim Crow era and multiple different civil rights eras where the mass of these monuments have appeared. But for some reason, I was still holding on to this myth of the Confederacy. Now, I long ago ditched the Dixie Outfitters shirt and the Rebel flag, but I didn't review their displays with disdain or frustration, and I was rather agnostic to people having them out or hanging one by the side of the road. But I think all that's changed now, and I love and take pride having grown up in rural North Carolina, but I have zero interest in holding on to or being compared to or anything related to the failed attempt of secessionists to create a pro-slavery union. Robert E. Lee and thousands of U.S. Army soldiers took an oath very similar to the one that I and hundreds of thousands of soldiers, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardmen, and sailors have taken, and that is that we swear our duty to bear true allegiance to the United States of America. And they broke that oath. They threw off their blue jackets and they donned a gray uniform. That is the definition of treason. Stop letting textbooks and romanticizers tell you anything else. The Civil War was unequivocally about the attempt of separatists to maintain the institution of chattel slavery. There are no Confederate heroes. All the glory deserves to be gone to the men who wore the blue uniforms and fought on those fields. And I am finally comfortable and content with that fact. Thank you.